Hola Bafetu, welcome back. Welcome to the channel, Dibalen Football Channel. Yeah, we're speaking transfers. There is still more to speak about. Transfer window is the most important one in the game, in football especially. There's a lot of news, a lot of rumors, a lot of speculations, but also, fans as well. Much more important for fans because they expressing themselves as to which players do they want their teams to sign, where do they think their teams are lacking. Also, teams are also looking to offload players, looking to better their squads. So there's a lot that's happening during the transfer window, and reporters as well. A lot of rumors, a lot of stuff that is being said. This one is always revolved around the two players of SuperSport, the two boys. Rightfully so, because they are good players, because they are quality players, because teams need them. Teboho Mokoena and Sipho Mbule, and we're going to speak about them in this episode. And I would like to invite you to have a conversation with me. The first thing we're going to speak about is Teboho Mokoena. We already know that is in advanced stages, already signed with Mamelodi Sundowns. In fact, we're just waiting for a confirmation, an announcement, in fact. And there's just something I want us to speak about on Teboho Mokoena. And this is what happened. So on Tuesday at Metro FM, the ultimate sports show, Mr. Thomas Mlambo invited the agent of Teboho Mokoena, Mr. Glenn Binkin, to speak about the issue around the player, confirm the Mamelodi Sundowns transfer, and make clarifications around Kaizer Chiefs, transfer rumors and talks and stuff like that. And there's quite revealing stuff that I think I'd like to pick your head on them, pick your ear, and hear what you guys think about it. So there were discussions. So the agent says there were discussions between Teboho Mokoena and Kaizer Chiefs. So there were discussions, formal discussions, and the discussions didn't go further. And Mamelodi Sundowns came into the picture, and they were willing to meet up, all the expectations. But let me quote what this guy says, Mr. Binkin, what Mr. Binkin says in the interview. So this is what he says. He says there was interest from Kaizer Chiefs in particular, but I think they did not engage further with SuperSport. I think there was initial discussions, and that discussion wasn't taken further. And he further says, I think from a player's perspective, he would have been able to agree terms on that side too, which on the Kaizer Chiefs side, but there are two parts of the equation, and Sundowns were able to manage expectations on both sides of the table, the player and the selling club. So that made things a lot easier. So that is about it. So what it says is that Kaizer Chiefs didn't come to party, didn't negotiate further. There were talks, and they ended in the middle of nowhere. The Kaizer Chiefs couldn't meet the expectations of the club and of the player, and Mamelodi Sundowns did, which is part of the game, rightfully so, part of the game. When you're selling players, when you trying to get the best deal for your client, you look for the people, for those who are willing to meet the expectations. So Vina Maposa, the spokesperson of Kaizer Chiefs, was asked about it, ne? So he said, when he was asked, he gave some flimsy political kind of response, and yeah, let me just quote him, and after that I'll just have my view on it. So Vina says, there were discussions, and that is what it is. If I come to you and discuss with you, and then we end at a certain point, it means that is the end. It doesn't mean it didn't go further. So he confirms that there's a lot of stuff that he says, confirms that there were discussions, and he says, the accusations that Kaizer Chiefs didn't want to take, the discussions further, that's not the case. They ended at a certain point. The Kaizer Chiefs had to retreat back to the camp to assess the situation. And he even says there were no deadlines, so they were surprised that Mamelodi Sundowns, signed the player, kind of a thing. They agreed with Mamelodi Sundowns. But for me, to be honest, here's my view: is that negotiations are part of the game. and expectations are part of the game. And Kaizer Chiefs need to get into that game. They need to do it right in order to win players over into the club. They are asking prices. There's release clauses. There's signing on fee, and there's other terms that are included in for you to meet in order to get a player on your side, and those are expected as part of the game. Kaizer Chiefs was not willing, according to the agent. Kaizer Chiefs was not willing to meet those, and they decided to drop in the middle of the negotiations. So that is about it. And Mamelodi Sundowns rightfully so met the expectations as they said. So for me, I know that, especially Kaizer Chiefs fans, they always say there's an agenda. The Super Sport and other teams in PSL don't want to sell their players to Kaizer Chiefs. Agents don't want to sell their players to Kaizer Chiefs. But to be honest, I think we should not blame agents. We should not blame players. We should not blame the clubs. I think we should really hold our own club accountable on this one. You can't. Kaizer Chiefs, the past few seasons, in fact, so many seasons, when I say few, it's an understatement. So many seasons, Kaizer Chiefs has always been signing free agents. Because there's a lot cheap stuff. We've been going to Zimbabwe, we've been going to Zambia, we've been going to other parts in Africa to recruit players. We even went to Madagascar to get players on very low prices, and the team is not willing to meet expectations of agents. People are saying players of PSL players are ridiculously expensive. I don't think so. Mamelodi Sundowns buys players. SuperSport also buys players. To be honest, SuperSport also buys players. Orlando Pirates also buys players. Kaizer Chiefs does not want to buy any player that is contracted with other teams, and we can't blame players. We can't blame teams. In fact, if you check, I know there are incidents. If you check the Papizo Twane incident when he explained what happened between him, Golden Arrows, and how he ended at Orlando Pirates. Sometimes the management, participates in. Ended at Mamelodi Sundowns. They participate in making sure that they sway, the players move to another team, even though they want to sign for Kaizer Chiefs. But there's also stories reported by Teboho Mokoena that Kaizer Chiefs sent Sipho Mbule to him instead of coming the professional way and stuff like that. So for me, there's a lot that says there's problems with Kaizer Chiefs negotiating strategy, with Kaizer Chiefs recruitment policy, with Kaizer Chiefs willingness to the management willingness to make this the club go back into its winning ways. And we can't blame players. We just need to congratulate Tebza, wish him the best. At Mamelodi Sundowns, he is in a good team, he's in the right team, and I don't think he's gonna fail. And I don't want him to fail. I'm not one of those fans that are going to wish players bad luck. I don't want him to fail. And on Sipho Mbule, confirmations as well. It's the same thing. There's confirmations that Kaizer Chiefs is in formal talks with Mike McCabe and SuperSport regarding the player. And but right now the player is left with 6 months in his contract, and there is going to be talks between SuperSport and Mike McCabe and the player in terms of extension. So SuperSport has an option to extend 1 year, and Sipho Mbule is just 24 years old. And even in this one, if Kaizer Chiefs want to meet the expectations, we won't get the player, because there are reports that Mamelodi Sundowns is also interested in the player. Someone can say Sundowns does not need the player and stuff like that. I think Sundowns does need a player like Sipho Mbule. He's 33 years old now. Tembazwane, Sereno is about to leave as well. They're lacking some quality in terms of creativity, Mamelodi Sundowns, according to their standard. And if they're interested in the player, rightfully so, they have a right to be interested in the player. And Kaizer Chiefs interested, but unfortunately, I'm not positive about it. And it is said that this week, McCabe and SuperSport are going to meet, trying to resolve the situation around contracts. This is what I'm thinking, is that if a player is left with 1 year, especially a player who's 23 years old, is that SuperSport is going to have to pay a lot of, to improve his contract and make sure that they improve their deal with him in order to extend. If the player wants to leave SuperSport, the only way he has to leave SuperSport is that he must run down the 6 months, allow SuperSport to sign the option. It's going to be just a year. And then after a year, he's a free agent. He's a player who can go anywhere he wants to go. But that is the most ungrateful way of leaving the team, to be honest, especially for Sipho Mbule, because SuperSport invested a lot in these guys. That's why they came from the development. They were very young. They joined SuperSport. Now they are big players. They are wanted everywhere. It is important for them to honor the fact that SuperSport is the one that brought them. We would like to say that even with Kaizer Chiefs. Imagine if Kutwa is left with 6 months. He doesn't want to sign an extension. He wants to leave and is going to leave as a free agent. But SuperSport will have to decide if he's willing to leave as a free agent to let the 6 months run and then access and play for 1 year. It means SuperSport will have to sell him for free after so many years of investment, so much resources of investment. And they will have to sell him. They will have to sell him now. And if Kaizer Chiefs and Sundowns are teams that are available, they might get a chance to get the player. But I would not advise a player to do that, to leave the club in that way, not sign an extension and stuff like that. I know recently in Europe, these are things that are happening. Apparently, there's a lot of benefits that come, the side of the player when they are free agents now, as compared to when they are contracted to a team, and also they get the privilege to choose which team they want to go to. So, it's a win for a player, but it's a lose for the team. But it's a wrong way of leaving the club. As far as I'm concerned, Kaizer Chiefs must be interested. If they are interested, they must be willing to pop out the money. They must be willing to go to the bank. And Mike McCabe reported that he doesn't think anything will happen with Sipho Mbule. Unlikely. It is unlikely that he's going to leave SuperSport in the middle of the season this January. And that's an indication that they're going to exercise it. They're going to allow the contract to run and then exercise the option. And in fact, they'll look into signing him, adding more years, 2 years, 3 years. And it's going to be very difficult to sign him after that. Once he has penned down a deal with SuperSport, it's going to be very difficult to sign him. It's going to be much more expensive. And yeah, man, that's my view. I'd like to hear from you what you think about the Teboho Mokoena issue. You trust Kaizer Chiefs as far as negotiation is concerned. You trust your team. Do you think the team should be willing to break the bank, or you're comfortable with buying, extras of Sundowns, rejects of Sundowns, players that are out of contract? Do you think we're going anywhere with this? Do you really think we're going anywhere with this? What do you think about the Sipho Mbule issue? I don't think it's gonna join Kaizer Chiefs. Now, I also don't think Kaizer Chiefs will be willing to pay for him even in future. So yeah, that is it from me, Dibalen Football Channel, Kaizer Chiefs Football Channel. Football from the fans' perspective. Love and peace.